Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Europe. We're changing things up today. We're going overseas for the summer. I am here with Tyler, but not Glenn tonight, and we're going to talk Zaccharie Risacher, Kristaps Porzingis, and Vít Krejci. And maybe start with Vít. What do you
Yeah.
make of Vít summer here?
Uh, well, he's playing on a he played because they're out the tournament now. Czech Republic, they weren't very good, and I, I didn't take too much away from him. He looked like Veet, wasn't he's not the type of basketball player to just give the ball to and then expect to create for you. So but he has nobody to play off of, so he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place on that team where he's basically just their spot up shooter and weak side attacker, even though he's their best players. It's kind of a weird dynamic with him. But I'm not taking too much away. I know he didn't shoot as well as he has in Atlanta, but I'm not too concerned about that. Only uh the biggest issue with Veet is just kind of the same, like functional strength. And if he were maybe bigger or more athletic, I don't think he had to be both, but because he's so skinny, it's not like he's not a good athlete, but considering his lack of strength, he needs to be a better athlete than what he is, and kind of limits the lineups he could play on. So that's really my takeaway. Is unfortunately for him, he probably wish he played a little better, but can't really take too much from what he was doing over here in Europe.
Yeah, it's like they tried to use him a couple of different ways. Like they would put him on the ball, and when they put him on the ball, they like if he did a pick and roll action, like they just put both defenders on him. Like they just, you know, blitz it or show, just do just enough to get the ball out of his hands. And he's not the kind, like you said, he's not the kind of athlete that can just blow through that and
Yeah,
say, you know what, I'm going to deal with it anyways. Like he's going to make the right pass, get off the ball. And like they just didn't have the horses to
to
really
help.
deal with that. And then like, okay, so you try to use him off the ball. Like, can he be like a movement shooter or, be a sort of a secondary attacker from the weak side? And then like he just didn't look that comfortable as a shooter in this event. One of the media members overseas texted me that, when he was in the media zone, like he was wearing a brace on his right wrist. And it's like, if you hurt your wrist and you don't have that jump shot and they're taking away your driving lanes, like there's just not a lot of way for him to really impact the game. Like he's a smart passer, but that's just not going to do a whole lot when you're out there with a bunch of guys who are kind of outmatched talent wise. And then just on
Yeah,
top of that, like Chetju was at their worst when they were playing against top big men, and they're in a group with Kristaps, Jokic, and Schengen. It's like, and Schengen looks like he's going to be like an all NBA player based on what you see these couple of weeks. It's like, yeah, they just had those three games. You could have just scratched those off right at the beginning. And it's like, can you win the other two? And they couldn't.
yeah. Though I think they were competitive in some of these games. It's just the lack of talent combined with V probably did hurt himself because he had a great dunk. I think it was on Sangan, but he
Yep.
had a hard fall after the dunk, which it goes to my point. He doesn't have the strength. Like, it's one of those things where he hurts himself in similar ways that Mo Gay will hurt himself, where the lack of physical strength, if he goes up, without, if he goes up with like full intention of doing an action, he can get knocked off very easily off his spot. Even though he completed the dunk, he did get knocked off his spot and it wasn't a foul. Um, and like he kind of just went flying straight to the floor, and like he's hopefully it's not too serious, but I don't think he was the same type of player after that incident. So hopefully he's really okay overall with him. But um,
He did have the presence of mind though in that play to not land on his back and try to flip it and land on his front. And like that might have hurt his wrist, but it probably saved him something worse by doing that. Because if he
He
had landed
needed,
on that same back just the way he did 3 months ago, that might not have been good.
yeah, he needed to like hang on the rim though.
Yeah.
That's the thing where like you got to just grab the rim and hold on for dear life there. Because actually, I am seeing a lot of these European players. They hang on the rim a lot and like they kind of lift themselves up, even though that'd be a technical in the NBA. But I don't think it's a technical in European play. So they kind of, and it's a good way to protect yourself.
Yeah,
But
it absolutely is.
so that's something maybe the NBA didn't realize when they implemented that rule. But they might also have it. There might be like something they have with the rim where it's different. I don't know all the regulations, all that, but it is something I've noticed that a lot of these European players like they dunk the ball and they kind of just hang and like lift themselves up, let the defender clear out the way before they land. So just again, an unfortunate incident, even though like it was a great play by him, like he kind of exploded to the rim and beat Sang into the spot. But I don't really have too much with V, unfortunately. Like he still looks like V to be positive, but overall he's kind of been the same player.
All right, let's move on to Latvia. I think that, 5 games is a lot of games for this opening round.
Oh, Kevin, I'd actually like to go with the French
You want to
team.
go French first?
Yeah, primarily because I think Kristaps. I want to have a more interesting discussion. Zach, you know, it's interesting. I don't have that much to say about him for this reason. Like a lot of what he's doing, he did in Atlanta second half of the season, where he's making open 3 pointers. He is grabbing and going a lot more. You do see the strength in a lot of his finishing. He's finishing a lot better at the rim. 3 pointer looks a lot cleaner to me, where he's just more consistently more on balance. But like unfortunately, like he's playing on a French team that they have complete guardrails on him. And I mean, it's not just him. They have guardrails basically on every basketball player that's not a point guard for some reason. It's just the way the French play at the national level. I personally don't understand like what they're trying to do here on either end of the floor. Like just to paint a picture for people who are not watching. Uh, the French team has a lot of NBA talent. They have guys who are in the NBA right now, combined with a lot of guys who could be in the NBA, who at least physically could be in the NBA, but aren't for whatever reason just aren't in the league. Like there's a variety of reasons, primarily because like most of them are just into the bench rotation guys at best. But they still like compared to the teams that they're playing against, far and above the most athletic team in the competition, have the most like real size, length, athleticism
Yeah, real
combination that
real
most
depth.
it combined with depth, most teams cannot compete with this. You're often seeing guys like Luka play like 36 plus minutes. You're seeing guys like uh, Denny Advia play that many. Sangin, Jokic, they all got to play heavy minutes for their teams, and they're the sun, moon, and stars. But like the French have the clear like talent advantage, but they don't have a skill advantage. Like they've got a bunch of guys who aren't great 3 point shooters and aren't also great decision makers on either end of the floor. And so it's a variety of issues where it's like I get it why they have him in a box. Basically, if you didn't watch Risacher play for his team in France before he came to the NBA, he's basically in the exact same role. Corner 3 point shooter. They'll sometimes use him as a movement shooter. No, he doesn't. He's not allowed to run any pick and high screen pick and rolls. He's really not allowed to create for himself off the dribble, even though I think he actually could do it if he was empowered to do so. He's not empowered. Like what I'm seeing from a lot of I'm not liking is like he's really not empowered to do much outside of grabbing and going. Like when They basically told him like,
That's
if
right.
you grab and go, you push the ball before you can do that. Everything else, you got to play within structure of the offense, basically. Which which ultimately ends. And Kevin, I want to agree with me on this. Like, there are multiple times where he is wide open behind the 3 point line, but because the play requires him to move the ball to point A to point B, he's not even looking at the rim. And I'm like, you can't play like that in the NBA. That's just not something somebody of his talent level should be doing. And I don't understand why the French aren't empowering their best shooter to shoot whenever he's open, but like that's the reality of the team. And so, like, if the thing is, like, if he misses the shot, and if he misses a shot that's outside of structure, his coach will bench him. And I think he has evidence of that from when he played, because this is the same coach he had when he played
Yeah.
uh,
As a French pro.
as a French pro. Like, this is the same exact coach, and like he's under the same exact guardrails. Bilal as well. Like Bilal, if he does something outside of he's more willing to do stuff outside of structure. But if he does it and he fails, he's coming out the game. And so, like, it's kind of frustrating to see this team because I'm like, French has so much talent, and like, and they've got so many talented guys they didn't bring to the team. Like, they're
That's right.
like, Saloon. Saloon wasn't good last year, but he's a lot better than a lot of these guys who are on this team right now. There are, and then I know there's Portland. I'm blanking on his name, but he's also like a better wing player because they're lacking on forwards for they bring in 4 point guards. One of them is one of the worst basketball players I've ever seen. For I'm like, you bring 4 point guards and none of them is the guy who's in the NBA right now. Like, I don't get that, but it's a poorly constructed team. There's not that much shooting, so they don't allow Risacher to do much. Like, if I was coaching a team, Risacher and Bilal would be starting, playing next to each other. They'd be playing a high press scheme where they take advantage of their size, length, and athleticism, which like a lot of these European guards cannot deal with ball pressure. They should be like pressuring 94 feet, considering the depth they have. They have a bunch of good athletes who could do that, Risacher included. And then on offense, like, they should be running up and down the floor. But like, Theo Maledon starts and like he literally walks the ball up every possession. And I'm like, Risacher is sprinting. The big is not back. If you just throw him the ball, it's an automatic 2 points, but he will never throw the pass. I'm like, this is like 1997 NCAA basketball that I'm watching. So it's like, it's hard for me to take too much away from what Risacher is doing, outside of he is playing well in the role that he's playing in, and the defense is a lot better um, from a physical standpoint. And like, I'm not too worried. Like, he has been getting back cut a couple times. That seems more of an indictment on the defensive scheme that they're running, where he's like, Risacher is often like, he's by far the best low man they have outside of their centers, but he's never the low man just because of the lineups he's playing with. He's not playing next to Bilal, so he's never the low man. So he's always going to be up the floor, and you're not taking full advantage of his athletic gifts. Meanwhile, the guys that have behind him is often either a point guard or uh, the center for some reason never just stays 2 feet in the paint. Like, there's just a lot where this French team's like it's kind of a mess, even though they might be still the most talented team in Europe.
Yeah, it's a lot to process. Like I'm glad if you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to mention like the fact that he has gotten kind of back cut a few times, and it's like how much of that is like communications with his teammates? Because there was one, I guess it was today, where he got back cut, and it's like, did anybody tell him that he was about to get screened? Like,
The center was
I
right
don't
there. Nobody
understand it because he's out
there.
there competing. It's not like he's out there being dumb or lazy. Like there is a couple times where it's a pick and roll. You got to do something as the low man, and it's like, okay, you got to maintain your space where you can kind of help, but also deal with the guy who might be cutting behind you. But some of these cuts just seems like just bad comms out there where it's like this should have been handled, but yeah, he's getting back cut. It's like just seems
And,
like
and
they need to talk better or something. But
and it's also a lot worse without Alex Sarr.
yeah,
Alex Sarr got hurt, and so like it's very clear when Sarr and Risacher was on the game, they actually have chemistry. One of the few basketball players, like honestly, it's Francisco will at least hit him when he's open behind the 3 point line, and Alex Sarr will also hit him when he's open behind the 3 point line. Everybody else, it's like they're just running the offense, and nobody's thinking optimally, or where it's like on an NBA floor, you would never. If these European teams are just going to not guard Risacher as if he's a good shooter, like an NBA team would throw Risacher, give him like 15 looks behind the 3 point line and force the team to adjust and then attack off of that instead of what the France does was like, all right, we're going to go into option C here now. We're going to get Risacher a couple looks. All right, he got us a couple looks. Next, we're going to the next player. Like it's very like scriptured. Again, they still might win the whole tournament just because of the talent. Like they're kind of Team USAing it right now, but it's like they could be better. That's kind of my takeaway. And like Risacher, like to me, has looked like somebody who should get more usage and should get the ball more. Like he's also making good passes when he's allowed to do so. Like when he's driving and finding open shooters or finding cutters, like he's making the right decisions. I to me, I'm like, hey, I got this 6'10" uber athlete guy where he's going up against a bunch of European players who respectfully don't have the athleticism to compete with him. Like they just don't. So let's get him in space. Let's space the floor and let him attack, get downhill. Because when again, the thing that he is showing is what it's also what he showed in France is his ability to grab and go. And like when he's grabbing and going, he is getting up the floor with a quick. He is beating his own teammates up the floor uh, with the ball in his hands to the point that I'm getting a little angry when he does it and they don't sprint to the corner. Where I'm like, why are you running in the same lanes that he's trying to get to? Like he had a turnover in the pre-Poland, which was his worst game. He had a turn. Theo Maledon was like like he beat Theo
yep,
Maledon up the floor, and
I
Theo's
remember
like
that.
in no man's land. He brought the defender towards him. So
He
he tried
did.
to lay it off, and like Theo's like, "Oh my bad, bro." I'm like, "Bro, you should be spaced behind the 3 point line. You would have made Risacher would have either passed you the ball or had an option. Instead, you gave him nothing." And so it's just like communications bad. That's why I'm like tough hit. That's why um I don't want to take too much away outside of how he physically looks, which he does look bigger, and he looks like a lot of these finishes are just so much better than what he was doing in the NBA, where it's not really craft finishing. A lot of times he's finishing like you would expect somebody his size and athleticism to finish, if that makes sense.
No, and I wanted to bring that up because it's like you look at his rookie season and credit to him for doing it because it's amazing that as an NBA rookie he could do this, but I'd have to go look at the numbers, but it was like one, maybe like a third, somewhere between like a third and two-fifths of his made 2 point baskets were left-handed.
Yeah,
And you watch this and it's like maybe he's had two or three over the 5 games, but that's gone. It's just
yeah.
like I don't need to use my left hand. I'm stronger now, and maybe I'm a little bit taller too. And now when I get in there, I'm just gonna go over you, and I get to use my right hand now. I don't have to shy away from contact and just kind of try to get around you to my left. I'm just gonna go through the contact and deal with it, and that's new. Like that's different. He didn't have that, and the physicality shows up a couple of different ways. Obviously, the rebounding is just completely different because
Yeah.
he doesn't get knocked off his spot. Like it's not I have to tip the ball to myself or anything like that. Like he can just occupy his space a lot better. And then I think maybe, one other way, like they use him defensively. A lot of times they use him as like the low man, but there have been times where they just use him on the ball to pressure the ball, and he
Mhm.
looks really good in that role. Like it
Yeah.
seems like he can handle that physical demands of that kind of task, like getting over a screen a little better. Like he looks real physical when he does that too. So it's like there's all these different ways in which you could see the improved physicality kind of creeping into his game.
Look, against Slovenia, he played some legitimately great defense on Luca
Yeah, he
to
did.
the point that Luca went completely in the I'm going to actively flop and whine and complain and get like
It was
three.
bad.
I promise you, three of the fouls Luca drew on Risacher, I couldn't believe the ref blew the whistle. Like one of them where Risacher literally like hand checks him, but it's like a token hand. Like they will never call this. Luca grabs his arm, pulls it down, points at the ref, and then the ref blows whistle. I'm like, what is this? You know, I'm like, it wasn't, he wasn't holding him, he wasn't grabbing him. That's not a foul.
The
And I'm like,
please
okay,
keep playing
this,
in FIBA events whistle.
yeah, I'm like, all right, that's like, and Luca, like, France completely, I know Luca had got his numbers, but like he could not score at all outside of free throws. And once they stopped fouling him, like the game ended. That's just
That's right.
basically what happened against Slovenia. Again, which speaks to my point about this French team being super talented compared to the other European teams, and also like they didn't bring their best guys. Like I understand some guys were like, I'm not going this year, but like there were young guys they could have called on who would have been better, better picks for this team. Like at least look to build up a young core to play next to Wimby. Like this is a team that could win. They could beat Team USA. Like respectfully, the French showed even last year they have the formula to beat them. They have they at the bare minimum they're one of the few teams in all of international basketball that has the size, length, and athleticism to play against the Americans. And so, like to me, I'm like, why don't you bring on if this is like a rebuild, retooling year? Why do you have these guys who are not going to be in your future? Like, so respect Isaiah Cornier has turned himself into a very good pro, has no business being on the floor. Luca absolutely him up,
Yeah.
and they had like there's these things they do like they had Cornier guarding Luca on purpose. They've had Cornier guard like the best offensive player when he starts on purpose when Bilal is in the game and not in foul trouble. Bilal's been in foul trouble a lot, so he's kind of been struggling there. So it's just Sarr wasn't starting for some reason when he's clearly the best center. Like there's just a
Yeah.
lot where I'm like, again, when I'm keying in on Risacher, I'm like I'm liking what I'm seeing, especially the strong right hand finishes. He's initiating the contact and then using an inside finish to protect the ball from getting blocked. Like it's very, very much different than what he ever did last year. Like last year, if he didn't beat the guy to the spot with the left-handed finish, he was going he was going 8 feet the other way and the ball was going careening off the rim. Now it's like under control, strong finishes. The movement shooting has been there. He's shooting well behind the three-point line in FIBA, so it's going to translate on an NBA floor. I do wish, even with all this said, I do want him to take more pull-up threes. Like I think it's something he needs to hunt. It's something he needs to look for. Like if teams are going to overplay you as a driver, you got to take the pull-up jump shot. Like either it's a pull-up three-pointer or a pull-up, mid-range two-pointer. Like you're 6'10". Like a lot of these guys that are guarding you aren't that tall, don't have the ability to rise up over and really challenge you. So I kind of wish he would take more of those. But again, it goes to my point about if he misses a shot, he is liable to get pulled from the game. Like it's just reality. Like he's not, even though I think they like his rotation minutes have suggested the coach understands he's one of their five best players. To me, I think he's either the best or second best player, depending on how you feel about Yabusele. But it's just the nature of European basketball. Like young guys, especially young guys who aren't proven all-stars just aren't given leeway, even if they're good. So
Yeah, no, you've given me the way to, I think, verbalize better what I felt all along, which is like I've been down on the French point guards just going all the way back because it's just like I don't see it. Like I don't think that they're that talented of a group. But I think what really kicks it is that you've got this French coach that is like, okay, we're gonna have this offense, and it's all gonna come down to the decisions that our point guards make. And it's like, what
that
about your group of point guards made you think that? Because it's like you don't have the horses for that. Like you, if you're gonna have Victor Wembanyama next year, like why are you relying on these point guards to be the beginning and end of the decision making on every possession? It's just like I don't.
it makes no sense. Like they they don't even need to have a point guard on the floor. Like a lot of these teams can't deal with the side. Like they should be running like a bunch of like uh ATOs and handoffs until they get a mismatch and then just attack that guy off the dribble and then play the offensive rebound game. Like they could just do that and win the game fairly comfortably, get better quality looks than what they're getting, where it's often like, all right, we're running our sets, walk the ball up the floor, we're gonna run our sets. Now it's 8 seconds. Now the point guard has to create for himself. And like that's kind of like that happens way too much. It's just from a fan perspective, it's frustrating. I get it from the French perspective. Like it's culturally how they play. Like that's just I'm making all these excuses. The saving grace is that Wemby is considered a superstar, and as such, it's going to require them to play through Wemby just because he has the cachet. Be
Yeah.
like, hey, we're going to play through
Yep.
me.
Yep.
That's gonna like on a if Wemby was on this team, Risacher one would probably be starting because he's the best shooter on the team, and also they'd have like very good chemistry because Risacher was throwing some great passes to Alex Sarr. Like that was also that's something that's also like it sucks that Sarr's not playing anymore because I thought Sarr was actually playing some of his best basketball for this French team, oddly enough, even though again, all my issues aside, Sarr was playing some great ball. This is the most physical I've seen him play
Yeah.
offensively
Mhm.
ever. Like he didn't play like this in uh, when he was coming up. He didn't play like this in the NBA, but he's doing the things he needs to do to be a good NBA player or a good basketball player in general. And like I'm really excited to see him if he brings this mentality, how he's playing in France to the Wizards. Like the Wizards going to have something real in Sarr, and like you're going to see a lot market improvements in a lot of his stuff. So that is a positive for this French team. They do have a lot of young talent. Like they're going to be a real problem for the Team USA in the upcoming years.
Yeah, I was hoping for some Risacher, Sarr, Koulibaly, Yabusele lineups. So that just never happened. Like you give him one guard to kind of be more of like a glue guard and just play, sort of an egalitarian offense, if you will, and really just focus on what you can do defensively because there's just so much potential there defensively that you can
Defensively,
create
transit.
havoc and play in transition most of the
I
time.
mean,
Like,
they do it by accident. Like they'll get lineups that have that, and then they'll just like, oh, like no, there's just not that many guards who can deal with Francisco's ball pressure or a Kobo's
right.
ball pressure. And so it's like they're stifling them at the point of attack. They're getting a lot of live ball steals that lead to fast break opportunities. Uh, when they get a rebound and like Risacher gets the ball again, he is flying up the floor. If he played with any other like shooter, like if the French had like another shooter, it would look like something special what he's doing. But like right now, it just looks like it looks like something he can build on though going into next season with this improved rebound. Like that's something that he didn't show in the NBA last year. The ability to grab and go. Like if he brings that to the table, like that's just another weapon that the Hawks have that they can really rely on, combined with again the improved finishing. So it's again, Reese playing some great ball. Um, it could be better. That's where it's frustrating. It's like he could be one of the better players in Europe, like full stop. He on a permanent basis, he might already be, but like I mean, he could have the numbers where he's averaging over 20 points a game in this competition, very comfortably if he got the minutes. But I don't know. He might be on a minutes limit too, so who knows with that?
Yeah, and the transition finishing is important because the Hawks missed that after Jalen Johnson got hurt. Like they
Mm-hmm.
were relying a lot on Dyson Daniels as a transition finisher those last couple of months, and God bless him, like he kind of Euro stepped his way into that role and did some things as a transition finisher, but like you're really not going to need as much of that from him if you have Jalen and sort of the new improved Risacher in that role. Like they're gonna that's gonna take what they had at the end of the season and just really kind of make it go boom because they'll have two transition finishers now that can if they're out there in the same lineup, that's going to be kind of crazy. But you mentioned Wembanyama and how he's going to change what France does uh, when he plays with the national team. I think it's some ways it's a lot like what Kristaps is doing for
Absolutely,
Latvia, right? Like they play through him, right?
100%.
Yeah. So where do you see in there in that regard? Like, how does he look?
One, I mean, he looks great. Physically looks great. Looks like that whatever illness he had has passed him. So like physically, he just looks like Kristaps, like the best version of Kristaps Porzingis, which is important. The one the one thing that's been really noticeable though is the passing that he's shown in this competition. It's not something he's really flashed that much at the NBA. He's been a good passer. I'm not saying he hasn't been a good passer, but like here he's trying to get his Jokic on, like kind of throwing passes. Like he's throwing hit ahead passes in the fast break. He's throwing back doors. He's looking for the back door. Like he's not just looking to score. Is my point. Where combined with what Porzingis does best, which is his post ups, his spot up shooting, and his rim finishing. Like his rim finishing been absolutely fantastic. There's just like if you're not an NBA caliber big, he's just going right through you. So like these guys, most of these teams have no shot at stopping him at the rim, especially when he's getting downhill. His drives look great. Like he's just like flat out, he looked like one of the best players in basketball in this competition. Um, I thought he really struggled against Turkey, against Singing, though. I will say a negative. He played a lot better against Jokic. So it's kind of a weird thing where I just don't think he was willing to engage physically with Singing at all, and so like it kind of showed up in both ends, and they played the worst game. Meanwhile, against Serbia, like if he played more, they might have had it was a
Yeah.
close game right up to the end, and he played fantastic. Like he was giving Jokic problems on both ends,
Yeah.
and
Defense was
like
there in that game.
defense was there the entire game, and like Jokic and him were I think there's more of a rapport with those two. They probably have a buddy. They've played a lot of games against each other, so it's one of those things where it's like he's more comfortable going. He knows Jokic's
That's right.
tricks. He knows how he wants to play. Sangin's a little more of a black box for him. He hasn't really figured them out. Doesn't know the moves he wants to get to, like how he wants to play, and also Sangin's playing like a again, he's playing like a completely different basketball player. Like the touch he's showing is not something he's shown in the NBA floor. We'll see if it translates, but he's looked like singing like Jokic, Doncic, Giannis. They've been great. Singing to me has been the best player in this tournament, and I think Turkey's been the best team in this tournament. We'll see if that translates to them winning, but either them or Germany's kind of a we'll see with Germany, but like Turkey's looked fantastic. But like just to get back with Porzingis, the defense has been there. Like he's been incredible defensively. Teams can't score when he's in the game. You know, they just can't. And he's moving well, and he's switching a lot better. Like he's engaging in switches. I still remember him guarding DeJounte Murray on switches and how bad he looked. He looks so much better in this, and it's not just the level of competition. Like there's technique things that he's doing that allows him to be more competitive in these switches when he's switching on the guards. And so like he looks like one of the better players in basketball. And like if this is the Porzingis the Hawks are getting, the Hawks are going to challenge for one of the three best seeds in the Eastern Conference. Like if this is the Porzingis they get and he stays healthy, those are two massive qualifiers because Porzingis play can he does have a lot of variance in his game because he's often too reliant on his 3-point shooting spot up, the pick and pop game. But I mean, like I feel like Quinn's going to use him in a variety of ways that's really going to unlock him offensively in ways that I don't think people understand just because the Celtics team was so stacked that you didn't have to rely on him. Like I really think he's going to really push for all-star, uh, you know, uh, at least he's going to play at all-star level, but I think he's actually going to make the team based on what I'm seeing in Eurobasket.
Yeah, like physically, like I guess we've seen like 10 games from him now, right? There's like five
Yeah,
warm-up games and five regular games, and it's like we've seen him for 10 games and really throughout all 10, like I think you can say physically, like, he's playing these 6-minute stints, 8-minute stints where he looks just as good at the end of the stint as he did at the beginning. Like there's no fitness thing, there's no drop off over the course uh of a portion of the game that he's in, like where he tails off because he of fatigue or anything like that. He looks really strong. Like he's almost looks stronger as a driver in some of these pick and pop situations that he has as a shooter. Like to me, there's something about the pick and pop that doesn't look quite right yet. Like it's not like, oh, he's just missing shots. It's like a balance or like a core strength thing. It doesn't seem like he's getting aligned to the front of the basket as quickly as he might have done in his sort of Boston peak apex where he was just an absolute pick and pop killer. Like it just seems like it's taking him a little bit longer to kind of get the sights lined up for that shot, if you will. But other than that, like the defense has been really, really impressive, like you said. And so, you know, it's different than Zaccharie, where, he's a young player and you're watching these things added. We know who Kristaps is, and it's really just a matter of how healthy is he and how is Quinn going to use him? Because Kristaps is who Kristaps is, and those things that make him such a unique player, what he can do as a pick and pop, what he can do to switches, if you feel like that's what you're going to do to counter, like he knows all of that, and he's has all the elements of his game right there to do those sorts of things. So it's just stay healthy, and everything else seems like it'll fall into place.
agreed.
Well, I hope we can do this again with Glenn soon. Maybe we'll see some deep runs into this EuroLeague single elimination, and we'll say goodnight, Bob.
Good night, Bob.